Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Rhythm Encounter, RPG Fans Music Podcast. I'm Mike Sollosi, and that's maybe not the same Mike that you're used to, but I am here today in place of Mike Salbato to discuss the music of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, joined by two excellent co-hosts, starting with Jono Logan.
Hello everyone, how are you doing today?
And also Kaleb Curry.
Hello for the first time.
That's right, yeah. Kaleb, this is your first time appearing on Rhythm Encounter. I think you have been on various other encounters on this website, though, right?
Yeah, I've jumped on a couple retros by now, but this is my first Rhythm.
Excellent, and this is my first time hosting Rhythm. I've been on a couple Rhythms, both pre- and post its hiatus, but this is the first time hosting it, and I'm glad that you can all share in my anxiety right now.
It's glorious, Mike.
Yeah, but anyway, I am nervous and anxious and all of those great adjectives right now, but I am excited to talk about Bravely Default and Bravely Second, two 3DS games put out by Square Enix and Silicon Studio in the early 2010s. They are particular favorites of mine, and they both have really, really killer soundtracks. But even more appropriate for having this episode about Bravely is that the third game in the series, Bravely Default 2, yes, it's confusing, third one is called 2, I know, comes out in late February, and we're recording this episode in mid-February, but Bravely Default 2 should be out in the wild by the time this podcast reaches the light of day. So all three of us may be playing Bravely Default 2 when this podcast launches, but for now, we're going to refer to Bravely Default 2 in the future tense. Let's talk about what we know and love about the Bravely games already. These games, the Bravely Default came out in Japan on the 3DS in 2012 and then worldwide in 2014. Bravely Second followed a couple years later in 2016, and both games are basically turn-based RPGs with job systems and certain visual and name choices influenced by classic Final Fantasy games, especially Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy V. And I latched onto them immediately. I got a 3DS slightly late. I got a 3DS in 2014, and Bravely Default was one of the first three games I owned for the system, and it enchanted me immediately. Starting with you, Jono, what's your background with Bravely a little bit?
I came to the series pretty late, actually. I only played the first two last year, and I instantly fell in love with them. They reminded me so much of my memories of playing classic SNES Final Fantasy games. I felt that the brilliance of it was playing them. It felt very nostalgic, but it didn't feel like a retread. It didn't feel like it was even. Remake's the wrong word. What am I looking for?
Homage? Maybe?
Yeah, it felt like its own thing, but I felt while I was playing them a lot of memories were hitting me. Like a lot of that feeling of being wrapped up in that big blanket and pretending to be sick and staying home and playing a Final Fantasy game when you were in elementary school. I had a lot of that when I was playing it. And I mean, we'll probably get into this a little bit later, but I mean, I have a huge thing for time travel and parallel universes, and I didn't know what to expect. So when those aspects of the game came up, it just knocked me on my ass, and I was blown away by them, and I just love them. I understand that others have different opinions about that particular section of the game, but I personally love it. So it really checked a lot of boxes for me, not the least of which is the music of the game.
Right on. And Kaleb, when did you start playing the Bravely games, and what are your abridged thoughts on them?
Yeah, so I actually, happened to get the Bravely Default right when it came out. And at the time, we definitely kind of had like a glut of really good turn-based games, and this felt like a return to form, kind of like Jono was talking about. But for me, what really made me fall in love with the series was how in-depth the mechanics are. I'm someone who we'll get out the spreadsheet and start daydreaming about how to maximize or minimize something. And this is just, the best you can get with that, honestly. There's so much you can do. And then how, so many other features of the game play into those mechanics in a beautiful way. It's something I can't forget, including the music. So that'll be cool to talk about.
Right. And I basically agree with both of you. I think that Bravely Default I knew it was a game that I wanted the moment I started hearing news about it when it was out in Japan. And I got my 3DS somewhere in the middle of 2014 and immediately bought Bravely Default and Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and they remain my two favorite games for the system, I think. But I enjoyed Bravely Default because of its sort of classic job system and how it was a modern reimagining of a lot of old school mechanics that might have felt dated if they were recreated wholesale. But things like the Brave Default system and a lot of the sort of tricks deep into the gameplay systems within each job, and things like SP and the sort of subversive turn that the storyline takes towards the end of both games in the series, really resonated with me. Like these on the surface look like Final Fantasy V with a job system reminiscent of like Dragon Quest III. But it takes all of those classic ideas to unusual extremes, and they both have absolutely excellent soundtracks, which we are here to celebrate over 3 blocks, 2 songs per block. Let's get now the intro stuff out of the way and get into the music. Bravely Default was composed by Revo, who is a sort of a rock orchestra musician. Him and his group Sound Horizon work on concept albums and elaborate live performances. And he's probably most famous outside of video games for writing the music for the popular anime Attack on Titan. And then Bravely Second's music was composed by Ryo, who is a member of a pop production group called Supercell, and Supercell does a lot of sort of anime music and production work for cartoons and television. And I believe Bravely Second was his first video game project, but a very successful one at that. So let's talk about the first 2 songs that we're showing off for the podcast, one from Bravely Default and one from Bravely Second. Jana, what's the first track?
The first track is going to be Ship Soaring Through the Heavens, which is a fairly descriptive track. If you've ever played an RPG, you probably know what an airship is. And in this particular tune, this is the song you hear when you are soaring through the heavens in a ship.
And Kaleb, what's our second track?
Yeah, my first song is The Grand Ship, a sea shanty, which is by Ryo. It's just one of the most, I guess I'll say, interesting songs in the game, and you'll figure out pretty quickly once you hear it.
All right, thank you, Jono and Kaleb, and listeners, please enjoy Ship Soaring Through the Heavens from Bravely Default and The Grand Ship Sea Shanty from Bravely Second.
けを伴侶と決めたなら今宵はお前と最後まで鳩場で叫ぶバカ野郎悲しかもめは泣いていた惚れた弱みさお嬢さん今日もパン一酔いつれそれが海に生きる男のローマン
Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Rhythm Encounter. I'm Mike Sollosi, and that's maybe a different Mike than you're used to. And today we're here to talk all about the music of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and I am joined by, first of all, John Logan.
Hello, all.
And also Kaleb Curry.
Hello again.
Now, Kaleb, this is your first time on Rhythm Encounter, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been on a couple retros, but this is my first rhythm.
Are you sure it's your first rhythm?
Yeah, it's not his first rhythm. I have a list of them ahead of here. This is Caleb's first appearance. I checked ahead. I sort of obsessively checked ahead because this is my first time hosting Rhythm, believe it or not.
Oh, really? I could have sworn you've... anyway.
Yeah, I've hosted like 175 retros or something, but this is my first Rhythm. But listeners, this is also our first Rhythm, all about Bravely Default and Bravely Second. And let's start off by talking about the first two songs in our block. Jono, tell us all about Ship Soaring Through the Heavens.
Ship Soaring Through the Heavens. Yeah, so this is the airship theme of Bravely Default, and I don't. If you played the game, of course, you know it's a city ship in this game. It's not just like a small little airship, although you get one of those too. But this thing it's a big boat. And when you originally find it, it's just sitting in the ocean. It can't fly. No one even knows that it can fly. And you go aboard it, and you go down into the bowels of the ship, and you fix her up, and you take off, and this becomes your airship for the remainder of the game. And the song that Ship Soaring Through the Heavens, it's a variation on a theme, which is something that's runs throughout Bravely Default in terms of all of the music. But this, the do 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 do. It's the same as the overworld music. It's the same as the music you hear when you are on a sailing ship. But in this particular case, they just really jack it up. They move the tempo up. It feels like you're flying, especially compared to the sense of adventure from the other ones that you get. This one really pushes you forward, which is a good thing to feel at this particular point in the game. For me, the reason why this is one of the, in my mind, best tracks from Bravely Default is that it might be my favorite. It might be one of my favorite airship themes I've ever heard. Much like the rest of Bravely Default, it feels reminiscent of SNES entries of the series in terms of SNES airship themes, but without actually referencing any of their music. It's more of the feel of it. And it gives you this... when I was first playing it and the first time I heard it, it gave me a feeling of immense freedom, which is what you should feel the first time you get an airship in any RPG. All of a sudden, the whole world opens up to you. All of these possibilities suddenly appear, and I feel like that is extremely well represented in this particular track.
Right on. I think that is almost something you could say about all of Bravely Default, how this feels like a classic RPG soundtrack from 20 or 30 years ago, but reimagined with sort of with the specific sound library of Sound Horizon and with sort of more modern sensibilities. Like it feels like a classic airship track. It is a great airship track, but it's done so in a way that maybe Uematsu wouldn't have done for a Final Fantasy airship song in the SNES or PS1 era. And you talked about the Bravely Default main motif. that song or like variations on it are used all over the soundtrack.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, but with different instrumentations or different tempos or different moods that really gives a through line through the whole soundtrack. And this version of it is sort of an up tempo, mostly piano carrying the melody in the first part of the loop of the song, and then into sort of more brighter brass voices in the second part of the song. But it's again. Whenever there's a travel theme in an RPG, whether it's a boat theme or an airship theme or even just a world map theme, I like having a feeling of forward momentum, like you're traveling quickly or on the way to somewhere, and this communicates that beautifully, and is one of the real standout tracks of Bravely Default. I love this song.
Add on to what you guys were saying, how it just makes you feel fast, and I just really appreciate that in a traveling theme. In games like this, it can be physically slow to get anyone, so just feeling fast and free as you do so, it makes such a huge difference. And then the chimes kind of make it, just fun as you're traveling. It's just a really I think of it as peaceful, like a peaceful, fun track.
It gives you that feeling of speed, but it's not like you're being chased. Like you're on just a. But like Jono said, a feeling of freedom, and Kaleb said a feeling of speed. This is you're just on a great road trip with the wind in your hair kind of feeling.
Yeah, and one of the things I really love about the track, and I know it's because, obviously, this is a track that needs to be looped repeatedly. As long as you're on the airship, you're going to be hearing this. But the way the music is structured is it starts out very, very simply with that, the nice piano, and then it builds and builds, and more instrumentation is laid on top, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it loops and it goes back to the piano. But because of the way the piano is played, it doesn't feel like the beginning of the track again. It feels, if I had to get a mental image, it's like if the airship was flying through the air, and then there were more and more clouds, maybe even some storm clouds surrounding it, and lightning and things, and then when the piano starts, it breaks through the clouds, and then you're in free air again.
Yeah, that's a hell of a visual, but it's ships soaring through the heavens, really, really great travel track, and it sort of is it's a bit of a typical plot point within Bravely Default, but for the first half of Bravely Default, you're sort of going from town to town or nation to nation, and sort of righting the wrongs in that area or fixing something, and then moving on to the next area to find the next crystal and help on Yes on her quest. But the grand ship section is I don't know if I would call it like a twist or anything, but like a ship that's so large and so populated that it's basically a floating city, and only for it to become a truly floating sky city, and all the denizens of it seem to embrace it. Like, oh, okay, we're a flying ship now. All right, dope, let's go. It was just, I don't know. It's a memorable and fun part of the Bravely Default journey, as well as being a really cool song.
Yep, beat sinking.
All right, but let's talk about a different kind of ship and a different kind of ship song. Kaleb, tell us about the Grand Ship Sea Shanty version.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with a little bit of context. So this is a song that plays during a side quest in Chapter 3. You're revisiting Florum, which is the flower city, if you guys remember. And you go into the basement where, DeRosa was up to his horrible crime business in the first game. But this time there's a guy named Rockefeller, and he's like a music scholar who has just unearthed a composition from his particularly famous grandfather, Arcapeller. Loving the puns, by the way. Anyways.
Do it, Rockefeller.
He's conflicted about what to do with the piece. Should he, preserve its original intent like his grandfather wanted, or should he, modernize it to reach more audiences and help his grandfather's music reach, more people? And inevitably, like every side quest in Bravely Second, it becomes, a choice between two of the asterisk holders. Excuse me. Barbarossa the pirate wants the old version. Praline, the performer, wants the new one. And, the song you just listened to is the one that Barbarossa wants. And, I'm not going to assault you with the version that Praline likes, but in the game, the sea shanty version is clearly the better choice. I think Rio intended it that way. It feels like there's a little bit of a negative intent in how hard it is to listen to the Praline version.
Yeah, it's no Love in the Crossfire, that's for sure.
yeah, exactly. Praline had a pretty catchy, fun theme song in Bravely Default, but her Bravely Second edition is, I mean, disappointing, sure. Also, an assault on the senses, sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I just chose this one, for a few reasons. First off, I wanted to choose Rio songs. A lot of people give Rio flack because, he's not exactly what they expected, having heard Revo in the first game. And I think that's really unfair. I want to give him some shine. And I chose this particular song because I think it really plays to Rio's talents. He gets some flack for going a little crazy with the guitar riffs. But I think where Rio shines is when he steps outside of that pattern, when he, tries to do something outside of his wheelhouse or something weird or even silly. And for me, this song is the epitome of silly in the game. Listening to the Bravely Default and Bravely Second soundtracks back to back, this is the one that made me smile the most, so I had to choose it.
All right, Kaleb, I have 3 points I want to make that aren't exactly rebuttals, just more just re-emphasizing some of the things you said. First of all, I think that maybe the most the thing about Bravely Second that stood out to me the most as it being a sequel to Bravely Default were those asterisk side quests. The asterisks are sort of I think a classic feature of the Bravely games now. They're definitely in Bravely Default 2 as well, where they're to obtain the different crystals that let you change jobs. The crystals are called asterisks. You have to defeat asterisk holders, who are humans that are for some reason 2 or 3 times the size of the player characters, which I always thought was an odd choice, but. Seeking out the asterisk holders and defeating them are a major part of the plots of both games. But in Bravely Second, there's 8 side quests, where in each of them you have to confront 2 of the asterisk holders from Bravely Default, and basically choose a side. And when you choose the side of one of them, sort of the plot resolves in their favor, and you have to fight the jilted asterisk holder, and then you obtain their job. And it sounds like you'll only be able to obtain half of the returning jobs that way, but that's not exactly true. There's you can get the other jobs you missed out on in the second half of the game. But so like that, this song is the result of a musical one of those side quests is a really great choice from you, Kaleb, and I appreciate it. And second, the only crime Rio ever committed was not being Revo, which is totally unfair. Revo's soundtrack is beloved, and he has sort of a cult fandom with his with Sound Horizon in Japan, and him being just the idea of him being replaced for the Bravely sequel was a major bummer for a lot of fans. But Rio delivered a very good soundtrack, and again, the only crime he ever committed was not being Rio.
To be fair, I would argue that the only crime Bravely Second committed is not being Bravely Default.
Yeah, I think that some of the story choices it makes are really, really impressive, and I kind of I think I like Magnolia more than Agnes, which maybe that's controversial, but I thought Agnes got a little bit annoying with her sort of refusal to see the. I found Agnes frustrating and Magnolia charming, so that's it.
I'm with you. Magnolia Arch is awesome.
Yeah.
Agnes, her characterization is a little bit flat, which is obviously not a problem with Magnolia.
Yeah, like Agnes, like she does do a character. She has growth and a character journey, but the problem is that the journey's not always fun with her. But let's focus on the music a little bit. The last point I wanted to make about your song choice, Kaleb, is that there's a lot of vocalized songs in Bravely Second with lines from the voice actors of the main characters. There's that weird marching song by those 2 goofball soldiers that reminded me of Salt and Pepper from Chrono Cross. You know who I mean? And
yeah, I know exactly who you mean, but I can't remember their name off the top of my head.
I can't remember it either. It's been 5 years. But their marching song has like interspersed dialogue between them where they do like Osaka style comedy duo jokes. where one of them asks the other one a weird question and the other one provides a straight answer, and then the first one does a ridiculous response. Like there's call and response and voice acted moments within the music of Bravely Second that was not present at all in Bravely Default, and I think that's both a composition choice and sort of a humor choice by Ryo. It's one character of the soundtrack that makes it unique.
Yeah, I think Ryo does a great job of bringing the humor to his compositions, and I was kind of talking about him playing to his strengths, definitely one of his strengths. And then, another one of his strengths is obviously the guitar riffs. He shreds Our Faces Are Melted in half the songs. But I think the ones in this one are really, they're not exactly subtle, but they're, yeah, I'll just say subtle because I can't think of a better word. But I really appreciate them because it kind of bring this, prepare for a lot of nautical puns, but ebb and flow to the song, rather than, feeling overboard with the guitar solos. It just really works for this. And then, like you were alluding to, the actual character vocalizing is just incredible. It's icing on the cake. It feels like, I feel like a sailor. I'm in love with the water, but she doesn't love me back. It's great. It's just a real mood.
Oh, should we talk about our favorite nautical puns and favorite pirate jokes now? Because Barbarossa is almost a cartoon RPG pastiche of a pirate.
Oh yeah, I know. And Barbarossa himself, the name appears in like half the RPGs I've ever played.
Yeah, I think Barbarossa was like a famous Ottoman pirate in the Mediterranean, like centuries ago. I might be thinking of Barbossa, but anyway, do you know what a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet is?
I feel like I do.
What is the pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet?
Second guess myself.
Correct. What do you think it is?
We'll say R. We'll go.
You'd think it'd be R, but 'tis the sea.
Ooh, that was a turn that I did not expect.
Yes, I'm both happy and angry.
That is the appropriate response, and our appropriate response is to move on to the next song if we're ready. Or Jono, did you have thoughts on Grand Ship Sea Shanty?
Yeah, I did. I just had...
go for it.
First off, I think it's a great idea that RPG Fan is jumping on the current sea shanty trend that's going on.
Yes, it was a coincidence, but I'm happy with that coincidence.
Yes, for those of you who are living in the future, where we are all living in our own little plastic bubbles, because how else could this get worse? Sea shanties were very popular, weirdly, at the beginning of 2021. There was a real trend going on. But in this particular case, I like this a lot, and one of the reasons I like it is because although he is not, I wouldn't say he's the best singer in the world, but he has a surprisingly lovely, low, rumbling tone, Barbarossa, to his voice. And, the song is full of passion, and you can really feel that in the performance. I also like that they didn't translate it into English, like they did with, Love on the Crossfire in the first one, which is has some hilarious lyrics, but they kept this in its Japanese, with its Japanese lyrics, and I actually really like that.
Thank you, Jono, and thank you, Kaleb, for those excellent song selections. But I think it's time to move on to the next block. We're starting off with my first choice for this episode, That Person's Name Is, which is the asterisk boss battle music from Bravely Default. And Kaleb, you have the second choice in this block.
Yeah, my second song is theme of Altair and Vega. I chose this one just because I also think it plays to Ryo's strengths, and I'm also, I'm a sucker for a somber piano piece, so I hope you guys enjoy.
All right, so listeners, get ready for That Person's Name Is from Bravely Default and theme of Altair and Vega from Bravely Second. Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Rhythm Encounter. I'm Mike Sollosi, and that's maybe a different Mike than you're used to. Anyway, we're here today to talk all about the music of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and I am joined today by first Jono Logan.
Hello all, I hope you're doing good.
And Kaleb Curry.
Sorry, hi.
Alright, great to talk to you, Kaleb and Jono. I haven't spoken to you guys in, it feels like weeks. Kaleb, you've been on a couple episodes of Retro Encounter, including the Radiant Historia episodes a while ago, but this is your first episode of Rhythm. Welcome to Rhythm Encounter.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm getting this weirdest sense.
Yeah. You know, I was going to say that this is the first time I've hosted an episode of Rhythm Encounter, but
I could have sworn that you've hosted
Yeah, I'm having second thoughts here. I have a spreadsheet of all the podcasts RPG fans ever made, but this is my first one. All right, the spreadsheets don't lie.
Of course, anyway, you have a spreadsheet. Of course, you have a spreadsheet of every podcast.
I do. No, I have a spreadsheet of every Retro and Rhythm Encounter, and even spreadsheets of my class builds in Bravely Default and Bravely Second from way back in the day. I'm 0% joking, listeners. I love organizing things and making things into lists or spreadsheets. But
I've got some real in-depth iPhone notes in my phone about my party setup.
Oh God, you should see the, conservatively speaking, 6 or 7 ones I have dedicated just to Disgaea games. But anyway, we're not talking about Disgaea. We're talking about Bravely Default and Bravely Second. And just before our intro, listeners, you heard That Person's Name Is from Bravely Default and theme of Altair and Vega from Bravely Second. So let me launch into some That Person's Name Is. Jono and Kaleb, I could not let this podcast happen with at least one battle track from Bravely Default, because there are, I think, 5 or 6 of them, and they are all go so hard. Conflict's Chime is the sort of regular battle theme. the two battle themes for the last major encounters of the game are called Wicked Flight and Serpent Eating the Ground, and I love all three of those songs dearly. But That Person's Name is another standout one of them. It is basically rock instrumentation with then the violin carrying a lot of the melody as they go into a motif vaguely reminiscent of the main theme of Bravely Default. But it just goes so hard nonstop. The drum beat is a like consistent. It's either 2 and 4 or off beats, like a nonstop going that just delivers tremendous energy the whole time. And because it's the battle theme for asterisk fights, and those asterisk encounters are among the more interesting and challenging of the game, and give you jobs as a reward, which is maybe the most rewarding gameplay mechanic that you can get out of Bravely Default. That the song has sort of story weight and a lot of drama as the phrases change and the melodies exchanged between the violin and electric guitar. And I mean, I've said this like 3 times already, but 3 times. Have I? Huh. I feel like I'm doing things in threes today. Weird. But it just goes so hard, even though I've said that over and over. I love this song.
I agree 100%. I mean, the song rocks. Every time you hear it, whenever you fight a new asterisk holder, it's just like, oh yeah, here we go. It's, I guess, how can you... I guess this is a slightly overused word, but there's something that's super hype about it. It just, like, the second you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, here we go. And that feeling just builds and builds and builds throughout the entire song. This game does, I mean, Revo does as well, but like this game does fights really well and boss battles really well. It's not just a single move that happens throughout the entire thing. It actually takes you on a journey through the fight. Especially in like the last boss theme in Serpent Devours the Horizon. Like the entire thing is structured and it brings you through an emotional journey by itself. And this song does too, and actually to a slightly lesser extent than the final boss theme, of course. But yeah, if I ever need to get like pumped up when I'm working on something, or if I'm writing something and I'm feeling a little bit stuck, putting a song like this on really does help push me forward.
Like if you make a personal playlist that's just the Bravely Default battle music, you're in for a pretty good time. And we mentioned, I think, the final battle, I called it Serpent Devouring the Ground, and you referred to it as Serpent Devouring the Horizon. There are a lot of alternate translations to the songs in the Bravely soundtrack. I think because it had like an official English release, but then an English language release in Asia that had slightly different translations. That's why Ship Soaring Across the Heavens, Ship Soaring Through the Heavens sometimes is translated as Ship Racing Across the Ocean. It's no, I'm sorry. No, I was wrong.
Boat traveling through the heavens, I think.
Yeah, boat traveling through the heavens. That's it. But again, we might accidentally use alternate translations throughout this podcast, and that is the internet's fault and not our individual faults.
Yeah, this is what happens when you put a title through like Grammarly. You end up with the Horizon Devouring Serpent.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, Kaleb, what are your thoughts on That Person's Name Is?
Yeah, just kind of echoing what you guys were saying. It's a battle theme. It's one of the best battle themes I've ever heard. And just kind of speaking to the fact that it's specifically for asterisk boss fights. I keep struggling with that word. It makes these boss fights inherently rewarding. I don't know if you guys can echo this, but sometimes handheld games can get a little... I can get a little absent-minded when I'm playing, and as much as I love this game, I'm still guilty of it in this game occasionally. But the second this track kicks in, I am, like, alert, I am invested, I am ready to fight. And it's just, you see that with a lot of the track. It's just a beautiful thing, and, I don't know too much about instruments, as much as I love the soundtrack, I'm not familiar with a lot of musical terms, but just the way the orchestra, specifically the violin, and the, electric instrumentation kind of blend together. It almost feels like you have this electric guitar, which is, as you guys said, it goes hard, it melts my face, it's incredible.
I mean, Revo and Sound Horizon, they use every single part of the damn orchestra in all their compositions. Because again, there's a lot of strings, and that person's name is the melody is carried by I think trumpets in Conflict's Chime, the main battle theme. And of course, it wouldn't be one of his compositions if there wasn't a lot of electric guitars and bass and percussion. I didn't mention it, but in Boat Soaring Through the Heavens, Jono, there's a very consistent eighth notes on bass going through the whole thing that really sort of anchor that song into a fun tempo. But so, yeah. That person's name goes super hard and uses every single piece of the damn orchestra, and it communicates the drama and stakes of those asterisk boss fights really beautifully. It's a killer track. But speaking of killer tracks, Kaleb, your second choice for the podcast was Theme of Altair and Vega, which is, I would say, a slightly different tone from that person's name is?
Slightly, maybe. But yeah, like I said when I introduced the song, this plays to what I believe to be Ryo's strengths. And, it's first and foremost like a somber piano piece, and he just destroys it. To give as much context as I can without giving you too much context, I suppose, this song represents the relationship between Altair and Vega, who are just their lovers separated by absurd circumstances. And as you progress through the song, you kind of feel the pain of Altair, who has to live with that separation and reflect on it every day. As I thought about it more and more, it's just this beautiful kind of loop of a song. You start with this sort of tinny music box sounding thing, which, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but it immediately makes me nostalgic. It makes me think of, being at my great-grandmother's house, opening her music boxes over and over to listen to them. And I think that was the intention. It puts the listener in this sort of nostalgic mood, as Altair would be remembering his lost love. And then, we switch and we transition into the piano piece, and it starts off somber, and while it doesn't exactly get exciting, you can kind of feel the energy build a little bit. Perhaps he's moving from sad memories to, remembering the good memories. But then, that music box piece hits you, and, suddenly you're nostalgic again, and you're remembering the sad things, and it's just this endless loop of remembering, people you've lost. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like to have to remember that. And, the way this song for me captures that feeling is really gorgeous.
Personally, the music box thing makes me instantly think of Marl's theme from Chrono Trigger.
I was about to say...
perhaps one of the games that Bravely Default and Bravely Second evoke when I feel like my nostalgia for 16-bit RPGs, and second, I think it really does give you that feeling of longing and sorrow, which makes sense in the context of the story of Altair and Vega, which is some second half of Bravely Second's story spoilers that we shouldn't address, but the. Like giving you the feeling of nostalgia when the player doesn't necessarily have nostalgia, and that feeling of longing that's communicated by the character of Altair, I think is really successful in this song. And we talked about nostalgia a lot in this episode, but these games are designed to feel nostalgic, even though there isn't, there is no Bravely nostalgia from 10 years ago, because Bravely is a relatively new series, but giving you that feeling of what's old interpreted by the new, creating a feeling of nostalgia when you shouldn't have one, is very powerfully done in these games. And Theme of Altair and Vega does a really good job of it, making you think, making players live in their own feelings and memories in a way that's really powerful. This is a great track.
Yeah, and you started to allude to it, but I forgot to mention it. This song plays before you know anything about Altair and Vega, and
yes.
you feel those emotions even without knowing anything about the characters. And I think that that really speaks to having nostalgia for something you don't understand yet.
For me, I agree with you completely about the music box and Chrono Trigger. Like, when I heard this, my first thought was, I mean, I know that these games don't necessarily reference Chrono Trigger as they do Final Fantasy, but the PlayStation animated opening where it's panning over Chrono's room and it goes into the photo of all of the friends in your party, and that just the simplicity of a music box and the tinny sound of it boils down emotion in a way that not a lot of other instrumentation does. And a lot of RPGs use it to incredible effect to stimulate that feeling of memory and the simplicity of memory. Like, you just have really, like, I mean, I have those moments in my mind where I have super clear memories of something, and if I had to pick a soundtrack for that memory, a music box would be kind of perfect for it, because it's just like a nice, simple melody, nothing really going on under or above. It just plays a pure melody. And then, of course, this song picks up on that pure melody and builds and builds and builds, and makes it more and more tragic as you feel the emotions come in through the other instrumentation. But at the beginning of it, it's just a pure memory to me.
I completely agree.
Let's talk about some memories of the future, and go into our third block of songs. This time we're going with remixes from Bravely Default from the Luxendarc Kikou and Luxendarc Daikikou music collections. So, Jono, let's have you introduce the first track.
Yeah, so, I mean, these albums are, in my opinion, brilliant. And they do vocalized versions of all of the character themes, and I picked what is my favorite, which is You Are My Hope, and that's Tiz's theme. So this is a vocalized version of Tiz's theme.
All right, and I picked the second half of this block, that is Prayer of the Vestal string quartet version from Bravely Default. And again, these are both the Luxendarc Kikou and Luxendarc Daikikou arrangements. So listeners, please enjoy You Are My Hope vocalized version and Prayer of the Vestal string quartet version.
二度と会えなくてもどこかに君はいる僕たちは忘れないだろう What can I
Hello and welcome to episode 64 of Rhythm Encounter. I'm Mike Sollosi, and that's maybe a different Mike than you're used to. And anyway, today we're here to talk all about the music of Bravely Default and Bravely Second, and I'm joined by my two fabulous co-hosts, Jono Logan.
Jono. It's Jono.
Jono.
Yeah, hey everyone, how you doing?
Have I feel like I've made that same mistake before, but
you probably have. We've been on a few before. Yeah.
Yeah. Also joining Jono and I is Kaleb Curry, and I was going to say this is your first time on Rhythm Encounter, but I could have sworn I've said that before today.
Yeah, I was going to say that too, but it feels like my third or fourth time. Doesn't make sense.
We didn't hang out before we recorded, did we? No. It was just our usual 15, 20 minutes before.
Did you guys also have a dream last night about being slaughtered by a giant fairy wasp?
Are we in a new game plus of Rhythm Encounter?
I do vaguely remember a Pillar of Light.
Huh.
Weird. I have a tattoo of a 5 on my hand, but now it's a 1.
Well, that means there's one more to go.
All right, that sounds good. Let's
just press on.
Yeah, let's power on through to the end, even if sometimes things feel repetitive. But I mean, we're podcast hosts, so we are definitely prone to repeating ourselves. In a way, that's a little bit like Bravely Default. I mean, how many times do you have to go and rescue the crystals from being besieged by monsters?
6.
It's in the 5 or 6 range. But anyway, listeners. Thank you for listening to a range of 5 or 6 songs from Bravely Default and Bravely Second. Our last two are coming for our specific arrangements, and Kaleb and Jono, please forgive me. I'm going to go into a little bit of explainer mode here. After Bravely Default for the sequel, which is the expanded version of Bravely Default that was the international release as well, Revo's band Sound Horizon, with some other musicians, went on a concert tour called Luxendarc Kikou. Luxendarc is the world that Bravely Default takes place in, and Kikou means diary or travelogue. And they called the group Linked Horizon because it was Sound Horizon plus special guests. And so Luxendarc Kikou was the name of the concert tour. Then they followed that with an EP release called Luxendarc Shokiko, which is small diary, and then eventually a fully formed album of the studio versions of the concert tracks, plus a few extra tracks, called Luxendarc Daikikou, which is Luxendarc Big Diary or Luxendarc Great Travelogue, or similar. So anyway, what you just heard was You Are My Hope from Luxendarc Kikou, the live performance, and then Prayer of the Vestal from Luxendarc Daikikou, the studio version. So Jono, tell us all about You Are My Hope vocalized version.
Well, I mean, in the game, if you, I hope you've played it, and if you haven't, after this podcast, maybe you should buy it, and give it a play. But the character themes in this game work a little bit differently than character themes in other games. Like, for example, in a Final Fantasy game where when Terra does something, her theme might start playing in the background to underscore her journey. In this game, character themes only really kick in when they activate their special moves in battle. And in this particular case, this is Tiz's theme. And so when you activate his special move, this is the music that comes up. And there's a period that happens where all of your characters are buffed after you activate a special move, and the length of time is the length of the song. So I have always loved that, how they don't provide a timer or anything. You have the buff as long as the song is playing, and that's really, really cool. Now this version is vocalized version from the live concert version of this album, and I think her name is pronounced Mao, M-A-O.
This is a little confusing because there's at least 4 Japanese female musicians that go by Mao. It's including one popular voice actress who recently had songs in 13 Sentinel's Aegis Rim, but this is not that Mao. And it's not the Mao that is a 22-year-old Japanese pop singer either. This is a woman named whose stage name is Mao, but I'm not sure which Mao.
Whichever one she is, she's an alto who can blow an audience over with her voice. Her voice is freaking incredible. She has an amazing belt. Her falsetto is just this, it's beautiful, and she just touches it occasionally in this vocalized version, and it's really, really lovely. Now, I think that for me, I mean, the performance is amazing. There's a video version of it on YouTube if anyone wants to go looking for it, and I think my favorite, there's some good choreo in this, but she does this arm pumping thing for the bum 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 bum. She does this arm pumping thing throughout the entire song, which becomes a little bit more than distracting, but it just, for me, gets funnier and funnier the more she does it. That's just something I really like. But the choreo that really gets me, and it's reflected in the music, and I think this is what I really love about Revo, like his stage, I've never seen a whole bunch of them, but based on this, the staging is at 3:35 of this song, 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Mao goes down on her knees, and then she slowly is getting back up with the music as it builds up to the main theme of the song. And you don't need to watch it, you can hear it in the music. Like, if you're just listening to it at 3:35, you can visualize exactly what's happening and what the choreography and what the feeling of that is, of building yourself back up. And I think that is just so cool. I did want to mention that, I mean, I know that we're talking about this specific song, but I feel like we can kind of leapfrog this into talking about the character themes in general, which is something I've always loved about the character themes, is the main instrumentation in all 4 character themes, for all 4 main characters. I always feel like the main instrument is an instrument that character would actually play. Like,
yep, they do the Peter and the Wolf thing, where each character is represented by a specific instrument that carries the melody of that theme. I don't remember what Agnes's is, but
violin.
For Ring a... Okay, so it's violin for Agnes, accordion for Ring a Bell, soprano saxophone for Adia, and then this
tin whistle,
some kind of Japanese flute for Tiz.
I think it's a tin whistle based on the older gentleman who's playing it in the video of this song. But I love that, like, you can just see Tiz like sitting on a rock looking over a field playing a song on his tin whistle, and like violin perfectly fits Agnes's like beautiful and very like disciplined personality. Adia playing a sax, just like really just blowing the hell out of it, just really screaming into it. And I mean, Ring a Bell, of course Ring a Bell plays an accordion. I mean, even if he didn't play it in that, it would be like, if he could play an instrument, it would probably be an accordion. That romantic...
Yeah, if he didn't play it, you'd know he owns one.
Yes, that romantic bastard.
My guess would have been a set of orchestral bells, but maybe that's a little too on the nose.
Anyway, I think this is an amazing version and arrangement of this particular theme. And it was probably one of my favorite tracks in this album. Yeah,
I mean, I want to re-emphasize, the whole Kikou set of albums is excellent. One of my first pieces for RPG Fan was a review of the Luxendarc Daikikou album.
Good review, too. I read it earlier today.
Oh, thank you. And it includes character themes for the 4 main characters, and the Praline a la Mode Love in the Crossfire song that we've mentioned a couple times in this episode, as well as Bravely Default's main theme. There's a 10 or 11 minute track that is every single town theme from Bravely Default in a medley. The special edition of the album has another medley called Pico Pico Battle, which is a 8-bit orchestration chiptunes of every battle theme in the game, and that song rules. But Jono's Choice was one of the vocalized versions of the character themes, and everything you said is absolutely on point. There is a tremendous power coming from these vocals. The singer is great. They don't totally abandon Tiz's whistle voice with some nice solos punctuating it, and it's just a bigger production version of Tiz's theme, accompanied by a great singer. Again, I'm not sure which Mao this is. I did a little bit of research ahead, but it put me in several different directions. Definitely not helped by the fact I can't speak or read Japanese.
That does tend to hurt the researching.
Yeah. Google Chrome auto-translating for me only gets me so far.
As many localizers have been recently discovering.
Yeah.
Yeah, prior to the recording, I had never heard of Kikou or Daikikou, but hearing it now, I echo everything you guys have said. It, the track is already exciting and lively, and this somehow breathes even more life into it. Especially her high notes. She only hits the falsetto a couple times, but it's like, I'm like grasping my chest when she does, because I've lost my breath.
Now that just makes me think of the Destiny's Child song "Lose My Breath," which is maybe my favorite Destiny's Child song. Not a popular pick, but "You Are My Hope," one of the better character themes in the game, and the vocalized version rules. Although I think my favorite character theme in the game is Idia's "Baby Bird."
Yeah, it rocks.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Idia's as well, and. I hadn't thought about how, each of the... I knew they had the thematic instrument, but I hadn't thought about how that instrument also represents them. And now I'm just thinking about her shredding on the saxophone and laughing inside my head.
It's a soprano saxophone, so it's one of the shorter, skinnier ones that Kenny G plays. And,
that makes
now
it
I'm
even
thinking
more fun to imagine.
Yeah, right? Now I'm thinking of, like Kenny G... What would a Kenny G video game soundtrack feel like?
Or what would Idia look like with a Kenny G haircut,
I don't know. I can kind of picture her father when she's very young being like, for your education, you must learn an instrument. She's like, I want something loud.
No. How about her father when he was young and in a rebellious phase wanted to quit being the Emperor of Eternia and just play jazz saxophone?
Yes, living his dreams through his daughter.
That's the Bravely prequel I want to hear. Square Enix, I know that you are a single person and listen to this podcast, so make it happen, please. But let's move on to a different character. Prayer of the Vestal is a very somber song from Bravely Default that does a slight theme of Altair and Vega thing by having the original version at least partially use a music box sound to play. I think it plays with a couple sort of one-on-one dialogues between Tiz and Agnes, and also if you use the event viewer feature in Bravely Default, this is the song that plays. But it's a very it's a very somber, very very I don't want to call it like romantic, but it's clearly like people who are having a serious conversation, but also there's a romantic tinge to it. Like you can feel Tiz and Agnes connecting as the song plays.
Yeah, or
but
not even like romantic, like even like just affection. Like you can feel the affection in the song.
Yeah. Romantic is too strong a word. Affectionate might be, I think, is a better choice. But anyway, this version from the Luxendarc Daikikou album is done entirely in a string quartet, and it is maybe the most out-of-place song on the album, even more than that chiptune song, because it is just, like every other one has full orchestra with electric piano and guitar and drums, while this is just 4 stringed instruments playing one of the most low-key and low-energy songs from Bravely Default. But I just think it's gorgeous. It's beautifully produced, and they take a song that's already a little slow and stretch it out even more, but you can still hear the Bravely Default main theme buried in there somewhere. And I think it's maybe my second most listened to song on the whole album after Baby Bird. Baby Bird vocalized version. Just because I am always just struck by the beauty of it, and whenever it comes up in my Bravely playlist, I have to let it go through to the end.
Something I really like about it is that it takes a certain amount of, I guess, confidence as a composer and arranger to incorporate non-musical aspects into a song or arrangement, and the storm sound effects, and like how the song ends with there's the storm and then it ends, and then you just kind of hear like the aftermath of a storm, like with a silent field or something like that. It takes a lot of confidence to put that into a song, and it takes even more confidence and ability to make it fit and really help with the overall emotional journey that the song takes the listener on. But this song does it.
Yeah, I think it really stands out. You were talking about how most of the tracks in Bravely Default are these massive orchestral compositions, and how this one is just on such a smaller scale, but just as powerful because of the, that affection and that emotion it carries. It's, it just puts you in a serene state when you listen to it. It's nice.
Yeah, and in the parts of Bravely Default where it happens, it's usually Agnes telling Tiz about her mission with a very heavy heart, and I'm not sure whether to find it adorable or cry a little bit. It's just because there's a sweetness to this song and a calmness to this song that is really effective, and stripping it down to a string quartet for the Arrange album when every other song on the Arrange album just goes so hard was a really brilliant choice. And listeners, I recommend searching for the Luxendarc Daikikou album. It's not the live versions of the songs, but that is an excellent YouTube safari, or an excellent download from darker corners of the internet, or an excellent purchase from CD Japan, which is what I did after listening to the songs digitally many times. But it's one of my favorite Arrange albums of all time, from an excellent soundtrack. So I think we're done. It's so weird. I feel like I've had this conversation before with you guys, but if Bravely Default had me play through segments of the game 4 times, then I think we can play through sections of this podcast multiple times as well. What do y'all think?
I think it was a fun journey.
Yeah, I can handle it. It works out in the end.
All right, listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through Luxendarc, and I hope that you, maybe sooner or maybe later, enjoy a journey through the world of Bravely Default 2. Again, that game should be out by the time this podcast lands, but right now, Jono, Kaleb, and I are in a state of high anticipation of that game.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not quite in our hands yet.
Oh, you can bet that soon after you listen to this podcast, if you want to listen to Bravely Default 2 and some analysis for it, give a listen to Random. We'll be talking about it.
Oh, yes. That game will appear in discussion in RPG Fan podcasts in the future, but I can't say exactly when because I can't predict the future. But I can predict the future a little bit for Rhythm Encounter. In 2 weeks, our next episode is going to be Adventure Game Classics, music from classic adventure games, which I know is a passion of yours, Jono.
Yep. You just said that, and instantly the theme from Monkey Island started playing in my head.
And following that, a few of my passions. In April, Rhythm Encounter is doing 2 episodes, one on Final Fantasy XIV, which I have an embarrassing number of hours into, and a second about Nier Replicant and Nier Automata, a series I am not quite as well vested in, but I'm aware of its musical excellence. So Final Fantasy XIV and the Nier series are coming in 2 episodes of Rhythm Encounter in the future. If you want to reach out to Rhythm Encounter directly, the best way to do so is to email music@rpgfan.com. You can also comment on RPG Fan's message boards, or Facebook page, or Instagram, or Twitter, or Discord, or Twitch, with something appearing or streaming on those different phases of our brand every day. RPG Fan also has 3 other fine podcasts. First of all, Random Encounter, which is co-hosted by Jono.
Yep. If you ever want to listen to it, we'd love to have you.
Second is Retro Encounter, often hosted by me. That's a weekly podcast of a wide variety of topics. Coming in March, we're going to do episodes on Muramasa the Demon Blade and Crimson Shroud and more Final Fantasy XIV, because we can't stop talking about FF14 on RPG Fan. And the third podcast in the RPG Fan podcast family is our partner podcast, Phoenix Edge, which is hosted by Hat and Eric and is a weekly podcast mostly focused on current events. You can review Rhythm Encounter and those other 3 podcasts on iTunes or Google Play or whatever podcast listening venue you choose. We love feedback. Give us all the feedback. Listeners, no, I'm not talking to listeners anymore. Jono and Kaleb, let's talk to the listeners and tell them how they can reach us more directly, starting with you, Jono.
Yeah, so if you want to get me directly, you can fire me off a message at Twitter. It's at Logan. Or you can send me or Greg a message at podcast@rpgfan.com with any questions or thoughts you'd like us to address on Random Encounter.
And Kaleb, how can listeners reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Fuffa30 if you enjoy Desolate Wastelands, because I've not tweeted a single thing.
Well, we have a few weeks before this episode airs, so maybe you will have a non-zero number of tweets by the time listeners can hear you advertise your name.
Yes, I will reach 0.3 tweets.
Interesting. I'm not sure what a fraction of a tweet would be. I guess that's something that's under 60 characters. But listeners, if you want to reach me directly, the easiest way to do so is Twitter. I'm at The Real Monsoon most of the time, at Evoker for Dogs other times. You can also find me on the RPG Fan Discord as Monsoon Mike, and on, I guess you can email Sollosi at rpgfan.com if you want as well, but I don't check that one quite as much. But this is not quite the end of the podcast, gentlemen, because with Rhythm Encounter, we always pick a special bonus track with which to end the episode. And I thought it would be most appropriate, even though it doesn't have a real soundtrack yet, or maybe just the skeleton of a listing. But Bravely Default 2's music is out there if you know where to find it. Very diligent music aficionados have ripped a lot of tracks from the Bravely Default 2 demos, and you can find them on YouTube or elsewhere online. And going back to the Bravely Default and second theme of, or I should say system of character themes used in battle with a specific instrument for each character voice, we have one of those character themes for our outro track. This is Gloria's theme from Bravely Default 2's demo, and her representative instrument is the harp. And when it goes into the transition to the second half of the song, it makes me think of Sailor Moon. For some reason, I'm imagining like Tuxedo Mask strolling into the into battle accompanied by castanets when I hear the harp transition to the end of the song. Maybe not the most highbrow reference, but it is the first thing I thought of. So listeners, please enjoy Gloria's theme from Bravely Default 2. And coming in 2 weeks, there's Adventure Game Classics on Retro... Wait a second. No, I already did that. Huh. Are we in some kind of Groundhog Day loop?
Nope, this time I think it's just you.
Listeners, thanks for listening. Enjoy Bravely Default 2 and the rest of the Bravely series. Goodbye.
Bye.